Friday the 13th, Part 3 has Jason attacking people on a little vacation. So, not camp counselors. It's not camp counselors this time. Jason is attacking people on a vacation to, mix it up a bit. So, it'll be completely different in this film. So, the positives on this film are, I actually kind of like the hip 80s score. It dates the movie for the credits, but it stands out. I've kind of always liked the beginning credits of this movie, and to listen to that music. I've kind of always liked that. The characters, while not being great, I do think they are actually pretty memorable as compared to certainly the first one, and even kind of compared to the second one to a degree, even though there are still some memorable characters in the second one. But in this film, yeah, the gang members, they're memorable. Shelly is a goofball. Chuck and Chili are the stoner couple. So they all kind of stand out. The kills in the movie are solid enough. For the movie. There's plenty of kills in the movie. It doesn't get ramped up until, the last 20 minutes or so, but, there's some pretty good kills. There's an electrocution, there's a stabbing, Rick's head gets crushed, so it's actually pretty good. There are some pretty solid kills in them. Now, while they're not, top 10 material, I think they're all pretty solid kills. I don't think any of them would really be embarrassingly bad. Steve from the original, where he just walks to the camera and that's it. I don't think there's I don't think there's any kills like that in this movie. So that's pretty good. So the kills are all solid enough, and the final 10 minutes is really tense. It has good suspense with Chris being chased in the house and trying to start the car. Chris has to hang Jason from the barn. Then she has to take an axe to his head. It's a much more engaging and scary fight than part one. Because it's a woman versus a big, bulky man versus... in the first one, it's a woman around the same age as Chris in this one, versus a 50-year-old woman that's not bulked like Jason. So it's actually a much more engaging and scary fight. So you wouldn't expect Chris to actually defeat Jason. She doesn't necessarily kill him, but you wouldn't think she would actually be able to get away and actually kind of take him on. So I actually kind of like that fight. I actually think it's kind of a more engaging fight than the first one, a little bit better of a fight than the first one, so I actually kind of really like it. Now on to the negatives. The first 6 minutes of the film is a recap of the second movie's ending, so I skipped right past that and went straight to the opening credits. It's again, I gotta think about, these were back in the 80s, and part 3 came, a year-ish after part 2, so if people probably didn't watch part 2 or probably didn't remember how part 2 ended, I totally get that, but it's just I don't need to watch a recap of part 2 when I watched it last week, when I'm watching these week to week, so I just don't really need to remember the ending of the previous films. Because part 2 did that, part 3 does that, so it's just annoying, so I kind of get why they do it, and ultimately I can just skip over it, so I guess it's not a huge negative. Other negatives for the film are the 3D effects are kind of distracting. It's very weird to have a stick in the camera for like 5 seconds, and that's just really weird to see. So, a little distracting, but something I can deal with. It doesn't completely ruin the movie. And I mean, like, the thing is, I'm just not watching this movie in 3D. I've watched this movie in 3D one time. I watched the 3D version of it, and I mean, like, I just never watched it again, and I don't even know where our 3D glasses are for it anymore. But aside from that, it's, again, very meandering, like the first two movies. The story is very light. The movie is pretty boring. I like the last 10 to 15 minutes, but again, just throughout the entire movie, it's just very boring, and there's not a lot of story here. And I mean, like, again, I don't want to keep saying that for the reviews. That's something that I hate. I don't want to keep saying the same thing for reviews over and over in a franchise over and over for the reviews. So that's like something that's really annoying, but for me. But regardless, it is very meandering. Another negative is the last negative. That is actually a different negative than the other two. The last minute Pamela out of the water jump scare is lazy and less effective than the first movie's boat jump scare. And a lot of it just doesn't even make any sense, because it's like, how would Chris know about Pamela? Pamela's head was chopped off, so it wouldn't even be on her body. Pamela wasn't even in the water. Her head was in the shack, and I don't even know where her body was. Pretty sure it wasn't dumped in the lake. So, and where is Jason's shack? Because they could have brought that back, and it would have been pretty cool, but anyways, it just doesn't make any sense. And it all turns out to be a dream. So it's lazy, it's not inventive, and it just doesn't even make any sense. But in the end, this is kind of a little more entertaining than the first movie. I actually kind of enjoy it. So to a degree, I kind of actually enjoy it more than part 1. So that's my review on Friday the 13th, part 3. Thanks for watching.